Go.
Hi, I'm the mom of Kenny Jr., Christy, Tony, Carl, Kevin, Sky, Talon, and Sacred. Those are my children.
Alright, everybody, I'm here with my mom today, celebrating Mother's Day with her. I want to ask her a few questions and get to know her even better, even though she's been my mom for 30 years now coming up. But right now, I just want to have my mom introduce herself.
My name is Doreen Duncan, and I'm really happy to say that I am a mom and I'm a grandma. I'm very blessed to have 7 sons. I have 1 daughter and I have 8 grandchildren.
How did you grow up? How was your life with your mom, and how was it growing up in your family?
Well, I grew up in mid-central North Dakota. We started out living in a very small community called Shell Creek, and it was really good. We didn't have a whole lot. We actually had to haul water, but what was great about it is that my home and my grandmother's home were close together, and so we were able to, as children, we were able to run back and forth to our grandmother's home, to our home, and we learned a lot from our grandma. So I was glad that we can be close to her.
How would you say, like, growing up with your mom and saying that you were close with your grandmother, how would you say your relationship was between your mom and your grandma?
I always remember my mother and her mother, my grandma, they were very close. They all spoke in their traditional language with each other, and they all seemed to have a really good time because I was joked around a lot together, and so that always made us happy.
So when you were a kid growing up, and then did you ever envision, like, I'm going to be a mom one day, I'm going to have 8 kids, I'm going to have 8 grandkids, or did you just, was that not even a goal of yours, or what?
When I was young, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to school, but I was really fortunate and blessed to have children.
What would you say is the biggest, or actually the hardest thing about being a mom to 8 kids?
I think that being a mom, I think sometimes I may have done too much for my children. I just think that I by loving them so much, I always felt like I had to do everything for them, and I think that if I had gone back, I would have made them do more stuff for themselves.
Being a mom, to me, what is the biggest lesson that I have taught you?
Patience. When you have as many children as I have, I think you really have to learn that each child is an individual, and so they're not like cookie cut in the sense that there's always something different about each one, and so the way you discipline them is different, and the way that you care for them is different. It's not going to all be the same.
Tell a little story about the day that you became a mom to 5 kids.
Okay, so when you were born, actually I already had the 4 older ones, and they were a little bit older, so someone was able to take care of them. I remember going to the hospital, and we went to the Phoenix Indian Medical Center, and at that time it was real busy, and what I do remember is that I was in a hallway, and they were waiting for a doctor, and they were waiting for a room to come ready. You were actually late because I had been gone several weeks before, and then you were ready to be born. But I do remember that you were born in the hallway, and the doctor wasn't there yet. So
I was overdue,
uh,
and I was born in a hallway.
And
Doctor wasn't there.
doctor wasn't there. It was a nurse who took care of you.
It makes a lot of sense now, looking back. I remember growing up when I was a kid, and I would come home from school, maybe kindergarten, 1st grade, and my mom wasn't at home. She was working. So I would come off the bus, and I would wait for her to come home. I'd wait by the door, look out the window for her to come home. When I was maybe at the end of elementary school and junior high, I would come home and be different because you would be here at home, and you'd be with my 2 younger brothers, like taking care of them or whatever. And I always felt like that was different because I didn't have that mom growing up. I had a mom that was working growing up. So how was that transition from like working to like staying at home? during different times of while you're still being alone?
Well, of course, if you have the opportunity to stay home with your children, it's always a good thing to do. I think a lot of women may not have that choice and may have to work, but my choice was to stay home when I was able to do that, and I was glad I could, because it's better to be there and greet your kids and be able to make their snacks for them, make them feel when they come home that they can feel secure. I was fortunate to do that.
I always think one special story that I'm gonna have her tell was the story about when you were pregnant with Carl and you were going to school. This story kind of encompasses my mom and her work ethic and how much education means to her. In that car.
Oh, okay. Well, I was a student at Arizona State University, and I was fully pregnant, 9 months pregnant, and a struggle going to school, getting to class, ASU. I even had a car that only went forward; it didn't go backwards. So I also had to be careful where I parked because I couldn't go backwards. At one occasion, I was walking across the road, trying to cross the road to get to my classes, and there was a car accident right in front of me. I was in a crosswalk, and a tire came rolling right in front of me, and I'm all big and pregnant. And so I seen that tire go right in front of me, and the car had hit another car, and I just remember people all rushing over to me and asking me if I was okay, and I said, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I just kept going to class. I didn't want to be late, so I kept going to my class.
I'll share a funny story about my mom. When I was, oh man, I just never liked school, but the way I got away with not going back to school was my dad. My dad, I think sometimes your dad is usually the discipline in your life, but in my life, my mom has been the discipline. I think I was 15 or 16. I just was having the hardest time in school. I was a bad kid in school. And so I told my mom and dad. My mom was like, nope, you're staying, you're gonna tough it out, whatever. But I was exhausting all of my chances in schools and whatever. And I remember sitting in the car and my mom said, get out, get in the classroom, whatever. And I was like, no. And I remember I put my feet on the dashboard, and at that time I had a sidekick, and I was on my phone going like this or whatever. And then she was like, okay, if you don't want to go in, I'm going to go in there and get your principal. And I was like, okay, whatever, go to get my principal. I'm not going to go and blah, 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 blah. Next thing I know, this little Filipino lady was knocking on the door or the window. She comes in the window and she was like, come inside. And I opened the door, and I remember I was so embarrassed. That is my mom. That's my mom. She's so she never lets me give up. Not that my dad doesn't let me give up too, but she's a little bit more, I don't know, I guess you know how to handle me. What did you learn from that? Why was it like that?
I remember that situation. I remember that I was thinking to myself that if I gave in at that time, it's even going to be more difficult to get you to finish school. And I just had a goal for all my children, that they had to finish high school no matter what. So I remember telling myself, if I give in to him now, it's going to be harder to get him to go next time. So I really did tell myself, I'm not leaving his parking lot until he gets into the classroom. So it was a standoff.
What was your biggest fear about having children, or did you have a fear? Were you fearful when you had kids?
I didn't know any better, so I didn't have any fears.
Okay. When are you the most proud of your kids?
I am most proud of my children when they take care of one another. I'll tell you, when I was most proud of Kevin, when his younger brother broke his arm, actually broke both arms in a basketball accident, and he had to come home and he had a cast here, a sling here.
He was like this.
And it was a long day at the hospital for me because, you know, they were doing tests and all kinds of things, and they were going to have surgery in one of his arms, so it was kind of traumatic. So I was so tired that day, and I remember really worrying about my youngest son Talon, thinking, okay, how is he going to sleep because both arms are like this, and you know, he couldn't move either way. But you know, I settled him in his room, thinking, okay, I'll come check on him in the middle of the night. I'll come check to see if he's okay. But I didn't. But when I woke up in the morning and I went rushing in there, thinking, oh, I forgot to check on Talon. Kevin was sleeping on the floor next to his brother.
That was a lot of fun because
taking care of my brother.
It wasn't fun, but I remember me and Sky like took care of Talon. It was a lot of fun. What would you say is the most rewarding thing about being a mom?
The most rewarding thing I think about being a mother is seeing that your children have grown up to be good people that contribute to Native culture, because that's something I always wanted to do. And so when I see them out there speaking publicly and being able to contribute by encouraging young people to have a better life, I feel like, okay, I made something, I did something right.
What was one of the best memories that we've had?
Oh gosh. I remember when you were little, you were so energetic about everything. You just did everything. We were participating in everything that we did. It didn't even include you a lot of times, but you would just jump right in and want to be a part of what we were doing. It was like you had no fear when you were little. You always wanted to, if we were painting or we were dancing, if we were singing, no matter what it was, you wanted to be a part of it, and you had like no fear, inhibitions to contribute to whatever our family was doing.
Were you ever like, maybe I should like tone him down?
There was no way to do that.
So my mom is my best friend. She knows everything about me. I literally tell my mom everything. You know, like my biggest fears, things I struggle with. What, as a mom, do you want for my life? What would you say? In a perfect world, what would you want for my life?
I want Kevin to be content with who he is. I want him to not fear success. I want him to be able to go further, to have bigger dreams, and not be afraid to follow his dreams.
Okay, I will try to not be afraid. I will try really hard. Alright, so what would you say was the big lesson that you learned from your mom about being a mom?
I don't know. That's what you know. My grandchildren are Summer, Sister, RJ, Tizak, and Manaya.
Or more like my dad.
Kevin? Manaya, Tizak.
It's Naichi next.
Okay. And my grandchildren are Summer, Sister, RJ, Tizak, Manaya, Naichi, Natanis, and Mia.
Very good.